Hello and welcome to At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Oftentimes people hear the word leader and they think only of political leaders, but leaders come in many forms, and that's worth exploring. I'm Jim Hoyer, born and raised in West Virginia, a husband, a father, a new grandfather, and a retired military leader, serving for over 40 years in public leadership for our state and nation. Now, the most important mission I have going forward is to educate, motivate, and empower our next generation of leaders. At the leadership table with me today is retired Major General Bill Crane. Recently retired as the Adjutant General for the West Virginia National Guard. In that position, Bill provided command guidance and vision and leadership to the West Virginia Army and Air National Guard, made up of more than 6,500 citizen soldiers and airmen and civilians. And Bill did that job for 4 years. Leading up to that, Bill devoted his 4 decades of military service to the state of West Virginia and the nation as a member of the West Virginia National Guard. He has numerous awards and decorations for his skillful and resilient and strong leadership. Bill served in a number of leadership positions we did together. Bill was a brigade commander. He served as the Army Chief of Staff. He also served as the director of the Joint Staff, the United States Property and Fiscal Officer, and then the Adjutant General. I was pleased to have had the privilege of picking Bill for a couple of, most all of those positions, and I will tell the people of West Virginia, in each of those selections, Bill was the right guy for the job at the right time and did an outstanding job. So Bill, thanks for joining me and joining us at the leadership table today.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to the discussion. And again, I can't thank you enough for what you did to help me get to where I'm at. And so I just look forward to talking about my career and what you've done in a lot of cases to help me along the way.
Very good. So Bill, I'm going to start by asking you the same first question we ask all of our guests. Please share with us a standout moment when you learned something really important about leadership.
So like you, I'm sure that you, over your nearly 40 years career as well, that there's just a lot of moments along the way, small moments where you learn a lot from different folks. A lot of the things I think about is I learned real early about integrity and how important that was as a leader. And if you don't have that integrity, then your soldiers, your airmen, they don't trust you. And if you lose that trust, when you're talking about a military organization, a lot of it runs on that trust. And so we always together, I know we worked together a lot to make sure we took care of our soldiers and their families and all of our civilian retirees as well, because it was just such an important thing to show that we cared about them. And so together, I know we did a lot of that. And, like today, my son is getting ready to deploy to Iraq, and he should fly out later this evening. And I just know that it's really important that they know we've done everything we can to train them, and that they know that while they're away, we're going to do our best to take care of their families so that they don't have to worry about that, and they can focus on the mission at hand when they're overseas.
And Bill, I think those are some great points, and you're absolutely right. Trust and being upfront with people and telling people up front and early the things that you need to know are a sign of true integrity and leadership. And I appreciate the fact that you had that throughout your career. You brought something up that I want to hit on too, that we both have experienced together. It's one thing to be a leader in the Army, much less to be the Adjutant General. but it's a whole nother thing to be a military parent. So talk a little bit about the differences of that and being a military parent while you're the adjutant general.
Well, I'll tell you, I am absolutely positive that my son Derek has had some challenges. Just the fact that I am his father, I tried very hard, as I know you did, to try to stay out of their career and allow them to flourish in whatever unit they were, because I have total faith in the leaders that are over top of my son, that they're doing all the right things and making sure that he's ready and he's prepared. So I think the key thing there is just as a parent to know that I know that leadership is prepared to take him overseas and to make sure he's going to come back safe and sound. And that's what I think is really important to know as a parent, and for all parents to know that we train them really hard. It isn't, as you know, not every National Guard trains as hard as we do. In particular, our special forces units within West Virginia, we do a lot of extra stuff with them to make sure that they can go overseas and do their mission and come back home safe.
So, Bill, I told people over the years as the boys got into the military and the Guard that I think that the hardest job that I ever had was being a military parent. Is that something you think? Reflect on that a little bit for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where as a parent, you're very proud that they've joined, but it also can scare the heck out of you because they've raised their right hand just like we have to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, which means at some point they may have to give their lives for the good of this nation. And so from my perspective, I couldn't be more proud of my son for joining the West Virginia National Guard, and he's a staff sergeant. So I'm not sure if he's ever going to come over to the officer side. He's talked a little bit about it, but he's really proud of what he's done, and he should be, because it's such a small population that is willing to raise their right hand and join the West Virginia any type of service. But he's one of them that stood up and said, "Hey, I want to join and do my part to help this country." And as a parent, that puts a lot of pride in you, and worries the other parent just as much. Jennifer, my wife, she's just as worried as I am about him and hoping that everything goes fine. But again, I have great confidence in the leaders that he has there. I've talked to him a couple of times, and they've been doing some great training. And so I look forward to hearing his adventures when he gets back.
Well, we wish him all the best and a safe and secure deployment. I've known him for a long time and a great young man, and serving his country and his state. Bill, you've had a dynamic military and civilian career, and we want to talk a little bit about both of those. But first, can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings in West Virginia? You are a born and raised West Virginian, and how that influenced who you are today.
Well, I'll tell you, I am the proud son of a 17-year-old high school dropout. My mom never finished high school. We come from a middle class family. Like many teenagers, as I was growing up, I thought I knew everything when I was in high school, but I was fortunate that I had a couple of teachers there, that Miss Gelner and Mr. Rucker, that showed me all the stuff I didn't know. And they kind of pushed me into going to college. And so I come home one day from high school, and there's a recruiter waiting for me. Sergeant Hardesty was sitting there at the kitchen table, and I didn't know what this was about. And my parents were like, "Hey, if you want to go to college, this is the way you're going to go." And then so, at that time, I joined for the education benefits, and I was 17 years old. March of 1984 is when I joined, and that started a great career. And like many, when I got to about 10 years of service, I was debating about whether I should stay in or get out. And I was a traditional soldier in the Guard at that time, doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. But I had a couple folks that helped me get over that hurdle. And when I was able to get over that hurdle, I finally became full time like 2 years later, and the rest, as you said, there's a lot of positions I've been through over those years, and it's just been the best decision I ever made. I know the values that got instilled in me, and there are West Virginia values. We're all about our home. We're all about being neighborly and, just trying hard to get things done like we showed during COVID. The leadership team, you all looked at what was going on and said, hey, we're not going to wait for the federal government to tell us how to do things. We're going to make something happen. We're going to take care of our senior citizens. And that decision just saved so many lives by getting them vaccinated early. And I think that's just tells you the kind of people that we have in West Virginia. And I've been all over the world as you have. And every time I go around the world, I bump into somebody from West Virginia and they talk about wanting to come back home. So, it's a big, we have a lot of traditions in West Virginia, and those values are really what get instilled in all of us. And it really makes us what we are as a National Guard. We're there to help the citizens of West Virginia. We want to do everything we can to make sure when they have a bad day, we come in and do our best to take care of them and get their lives back to normal as quickly as possible.
So, Bill, you served for more than 40 years in uniform in the Guard, a number of key assignments. Give me and our listeners, a couple of examples of impactful moments for you in that time.
I would say there's probably a couple that I could think of. Number one was being given the opportunity to deploy, to go to Iraq for a tour. Wasn't a long tour, but it gave me an opportunity to learn, to work in the interagency, to work in across the board with different, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force. Those opportunities are pretty rare when you're in the Guard. So getting that chance to go over and work with the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and all those different three-letter agencies really opened my eyes to the capabilities that we had in the service. Even at that point in time in 2006, it was pretty amazing what those teams could do to find particular targets that we had to try to take down. And so that was one great experience. And then the second one, and we've already talked about a little bit, having my son join the National Guard, and being one of those rare kids that the first time we took him to MEPS, he was underweight, not overweight. And so the second time we took him down there, I made him drink a gallon of water before he got there. And that made sure he got on the scales and made his weight, so then he could ship off and do what he's been doing. So that's, a couple of in the Guard moments that have been particularly exciting to me. And, and then us working together in all of the assignments that I've had the opportunity to do. I think he prepared me very well by giving me those assignments. None of them were easy, but they were all rewarding. And I think they led me to be able to backfill you. I won't say take your place, but to backfill behind you and come in and run the organization, because I had all of those experiences under my belt.
So, Bill, you also are educated as a chemist, and you have also worked as a chemist, and you have patents. So tell us a little bit about that and your work as a chemist and achieving that standard of being able to patent an idea.
Yeah, so I worked when I first started working. It was the same plant that my father worked out. He was a lab technician there. I was fortunate enough to go to Glenville State, now university, then college, and get my bachelor's degree in chemistry. I came out of there and went to work at that plant, and I started off as a lab technician like my dad. It took me about a year, and my boss thought I could do more, so he promoted me to a chemist. And then from there, I had the opportunity to work on, it was organosilicone chemistry that we were working on. So a lot of stuff to do with making the foam that's in cars and what's in chairs and seats and all those different things. The product we made was a surface tension reduction agent, or a surfactant, and that allowed the bubbles inside of those foams to be uniform and small. So the processes that I worked with my team to develop was a continuous copolymer. One of them was a continuous copolymer unit. So instead of doing things in a batch process, and so you'd run one, 20,000 gallons worth of a product, and then you'd clean the vat, clean all that reactor up, and run the next product. By doing it through a continuous system, we eliminated all of the cleaning solvents, and so that saved a ton of money for the plant. And they have one of these large units up and running now. I got to go back up and visit. They're about ready to dismantle my small scale version of it, which is kind of sad in a way. But to see that thing in action, the bigger version of it, and the kind of money that saved them, and to really help the environment, to not have all of that stuff being burned up or disposed of somewhere. So that's also a great thing that I felt about as well.
And I think it's another great example of why the Guard is so successful, because you got people from a variety of different backgrounds and skills and capabilities that also serve as soldiers and airmen. So they're able to do a lot of unique things when called upon by either their state or their nation. It was a milestone time for me to serve as the Adjutant General, and also then to retire in February 21. Was privileged to have passed that honor on to you. You've done an incredible job of working and leading the Guard to serve our state and our nation during challenging times. And while I got a little emotional when I announced my retirement in 21. I'm assuming that you got that same feeling when you announced your retirement, but also tell us a little bit about what's next, and what are you thinking about right now, and thinking about for the future?
Well, I think the first thing I want to talk about is yes, I absolutely have mixed emotions about being retired. And as you know, nobody can do this job alone. There's a lot of people that help, but in particular, our spouses make a big difference. And I still remember when you were first talking to me about maybe recommending me to the governor to be the next adjutant general. And I went home to talk to Jennifer about it, my wife, and I said, "Hey, we got to go to dinner with the Hoyers." And so we went to dinner up at the 1010. I'm sure you remember this. And I told my wife, I said, "Hey, you got to ask Amy every question you can think of, because I want you to feel like you're prepared and you know what you're getting yourself into." And so I remember Jennifer leaning over to Amy, say, "Hey, what do you think about this? What are some things I need to know?" And Amy's response was, "Run, just run." and I think there are days that Jennifer absolutely felt like we should have probably run, but I think most of the days she felt like it was a pretty big honor to get to do this and to help the families. And she started a spouse day, and that was a great event. We typically bring in about 20 spouses with their service member. They'd have to write a note about what makes their spouse so special. And so that's been a great event, and hopefully they're going to continue that event. But again, you just can't do this without a lot of folks behind you that are helping to give you the time and effort to do this. Like my wife said, I was gone 75 days last year. I wasn't in my own bed for 75 days last year. And I know you experienced the same thing, being gone all the time. And although that's not a deployment, it doesn't allow you to get into a good rhythm, because we're always going, and that things happen while you're gone. So as you know, that's just a real challenge with this job. But as far as what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take a few days off, and we were talking earlier, you go from that pace that I just talked about to the next day. You wake up Monday morning and you don't have to put the uniform on, and so you're like, okay, this is a little strange. And so I'm going to take some time to figure out, exactly what I want to do next. But I've got some ideas, and it's I'm sure there's something I'm going to do, because I'm not going to be able to sit around this house for very long, much like yourself. I've got to stay pretty busy. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Very good. So, Bill, what is your biggest hope for the Guard and the state going forward?
Well, I will tell you, as I said earlier, we have the people with the best values. I want us to continue. Governor Justice, now Senator Justice, really started to bring a lot of corporations into West Virginia, and I hope that those are the kind of paying jobs that keeps our youth here and will bring some of our youth back. We need our population to come back, and I think he got a really good start on helping that to happen by bringing those corporations into West Virginia. I'd like to see that continue. I thought he brought a great optimism. I thought he helped us all see ourselves in a lot better light, excited about being a West Virginian. And he kind of gave us all permission to be excited about it. And as he talked about, loving your own pond. And so I hope that will continue, and I know he's going to continue to say those very positive things, because like him, I love the state of West Virginia, and I know how much he loves West Virginia. And then, as far as the Guard, just continue to train hard. I hope they can keep the Ridge Runner, Ridge Healer program going, the Irregular Warfare Center program that we've started. I mean, I think that has just paid many dividends, and getting international partners to come to West Virginia. As you know, we've had over 16 to 20 different nations come into West Virginia and train with our Special Forces troops. And I just want all of our organizations, Army and Air both, to continue to train hard, to prepare the young soldiers and airmen to be the best they can be. So if they have to go do the great power competition, they're prepared to do it, because we've seen what's happened in Ukraine. We've seen what's happened in the Middle East. It's a devastating fight that they could potentially be in, and we want to make sure that they are doing everything they can to help them survive and win our nation's wars.
Very good, and I think that's are two great things that we all should work towards and hope for our state. Bill, you highlighted in your comments that the Adjutant General is a leadership position, but it's really working with and facilitating a whole bunch of really talented people, and they're the ones that make the organization go, make it successful. As we close out, I think the best compliment I can pay you and thank you for your services. As Adjutant General, you have a series of events that happen along the way where you have to make hard decisions, and you have to have that team in place to come in and take on challenges that face the organization, or things that need to happen to move the organization forward. And I remember during my 10 years of doing it, there were three really key points at which I needed some team members to take on some unique challenges. And during three of those, I called you and asked you to come in and take those responsibilities. You took them. We were able to continue to move the Guard in a positive direction and make a positive impact. So I thank you for being a great teammate during our time together, for the work and the leadership that you've done for the Guard, the soldiers and airmen, their families, and the state of West Virginia. And I thank you for your service and for being with us today on At the Leadership Table.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. And again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your leadership and your help over the years, and helping me to get to the position that I got to, which is the pinnacle of the National Guard in West Virginia. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Did you know you can now find me on social media at RMG Hoyer? That's HOYER, or email me at rmgjameshoyer@gmail.com.